Come to me. All of you get my voice on screen. Guys, please confirm to me. All of you get my voice on screen. Those are attending online. Guys, please confirm to me. All of you get my voice on screen. Those are attending in online. Thank you. All right, sir. And check it what we completed in the last session. Now, so what topic we are discussing there? So we are discussing about web.xml file deployment to descriptor. Now, understand this web.xml file or deployment to descriptor. What is this actually? What you are understanding this web.xml file or deployment descriptor? So deployment to descriptor is web.xml file. It will provide some description or metadata about the web application which is required by the container in order to find and execute the server side resources. Observe carefully. All right, sir. Deployment descriptor is a web.xml file. It will provide some description or metadata about the web application which is required by the container in order to find and execute the server side resources. In web applications, deployment descriptor is responsible for the following configuration details. What are the various configuration details here we are getting? Welcome files configuration, display names configurations, servlets configuration, filters configurations, listeners configurations, session timeout configuration, initialization parameters configuration, context parameters configurations, tag libraries configurations, JSP files configurations, security configurations, and so on. So many configuration details are available. If you observe this, servlet configurations in web.xml file, that's our requirement. All right, if you want to, all right, sir, what is the requirement to go for servlet configurations in web.xml file? In general, in web applications, we will provide servlet classes under classes folder, that is private area. If we want to access servlets, then we have to define alias name or locator or URL pattern in web.xml file. To define alias names or URL patterns or locators to the servlet classes, then we have to use servlet configuration in web.xml file. Simple. In a simple manner, if you want to define alias names and servlet class names, that means to provide mapping between alias names and servlet class names. If we want to provide this mapping, then we have to go for servlet configuration in web.xml file. What is the requirement to define alias names for the servlet classes there? In general, servlet classes are provided under classes folder, that is under private area. Directly, we are unable to access it. If we want to access it through the alias name only, we are able to access. That is a server condition. That server has provided that constraint. So to define these alias names for the servlet classes, we have to use servlet configuration in web.xml file. Right. To provide servlet configuration in web.xml file, we have to use the following tags. Directly, I give in the tags to you. Try to understand it clearly. Web app, servlet, servlet mapping, and web app. These are the various three tags, mainly two tags under web app. Web app is representing web application. Under this servlet, then what next one here? No, servlet mapping. These two are available. Under again servlet, here we are able to use what there servlet name tag, servlet class, fully qualified name of the servlet class. Under servlet mapping, again what we have taken there, servlet name. Next one is what there, URL pattern here we have taken. All right, sir. Then example also we have given. What is that example here? I given there. Web app, servlet name, login servlet. Next one is servlet class, com.dss.servlets.login servlet mapping, again servlet name, login servlet /login can be provided. As per the above servlet configuration in web.xml file, we are able to access the servlet class by using the following URL. Alright, sir. http:// localhost 1010/login app/login. This is what we are getting clear now. Alright, sir. One internal concept I given yesterday. In the yesterday session, I given some internal content. What was that internal topic, internal content I given there in the last class? No, all of you observe carefully. If we send a request to the web application with the above URL, if we use the above URL and if we send a request from client to the server, then what will happen? Then the container, directly I want to talk about container. Why? Because main server, their responsibilities already we discussed it here. Not required to discuss again and again. Already we understood that. Then the container will perform the following actions. Or else, if you want to see once again the same points, no, the same. Main server will take that request, it will check whether it is a static resource or dynamic resource. If it is dynamic resource, forward request to watch, forward request to like what there to the container. Like this, here we are able to follow some content. But my concentration is not that main server issue. My concentration is on how container is able to find the servlet class on the basis of this name. That's the main point that I want to concentrate. Now what container will perform, what container is able to perform the following actions. All right, sir. Number one, observe carefully. Container will take the provided resource name from the URL. Okay. After that, container will take the provided resource name from the URL. That's okay, fine. After this, after completion of this, container, after taking the URL, what is the job of the container? Container understood that resource name is an URL pattern for a particular servlet. But for what servlet? For which servlet? This URL pattern is coming. To know that, container must go to the web.xml file. In web.xml file, container must identify the servlet mapping configuration with the same URL pattern by comparing that URL pattern tag. If it is identified, container will find the servlet name tag value, that is logical name of the servlet. Then it will search for a servlet configuration with the same servlet name tag, with the same logical name of the servlet. If it is matched, there it will pick what their servlet class tag value. That is what their servlet class now. Then by this it able to identify what their servlet class. When it identifies this servlet class now, then container is able to execute that servlet class by following its life cycle activities. This is the point here what I am telling you. Now let's move on to the point here. Container will take the provided resource name from the URL. Container will right, so container will take the provided resource name from the URL, that is an URL pattern for a particular servlet. Next one is container will go to web.xml file. Container will go to the web.xml file. Will go to the web.xml file to find the servlet class name. To find the servlet class name, with respect to the incoming, okay, with respect to the URL pattern. Now in the web.xml file, container, in the web.xml file, container will find the servlet mapping configuration on the basis of the URL pattern value, Okay, here what container will do, will find the servlet mapping configuration on the basis of the URL pattern value. Here the container will take logical name of the servlet, from servlet name tag under servlet mapping tag. Now here URL logical name is identified. Next one is what there after this. Right, sir. Next one is what there. After getting servlet's logical name, the container will find the servlet configuration. Servlet mapping configuration is different. Servlet tag is representing what there? Servlet configuration. Servlet mapping tag is representing what there? Servlet mapping definition. Mapping might be configuration. After getting servlet's logical name, the container will find the servlet configuration on the basis of the what? On the basis of the servlet's logical name. Where the container will find the actual servlet class, fully qualified name, from servlet class tag, under servlet tag. Right. Now it's it. Now finally, container finds this particular punch. Then after that, what next one? When container identifies the servlet class name, then what it will do there? After getting the servlet class name, the container will execute the servlet class. By following the servlet lifecycle and generate a response as per the servlet implementation to the main server. That's it. Now this is overall story of like what their container. So if we submit this request from client to the server, what container responsibilities, that I have given that clearly now. Again, final time I'm telling you, try to remember this. Next I will move on to the next topic now. What is the final point here? Observe carefully. If we submit this particular request now, main server will take that request initially. Main server will take that resource name. Main server will check whether that resource name is a static resource name or maybe dynamic resource. If it is static resource, then main server will handle it, but it is not static, it is dynamic. Why? Because no extension is available, simply a name is coming. It may be an URL pattern for a particular servlet. So this request is coming for dynamic resource. By understanding this point, main server will forward request to the container. Now container will take the resource name. Container understood that this is an URL pattern for a particular servlet, but to which servlet this URL pattern is coming, container wants to know that. To know that information, container must go for what their web.xml file. Why? Because in web applications, only web.xml file is providing all the configuration details. If container required any information about the web application, container must go to what their web.xml file only. A simple example I'm telling to you how this web.xml file is playing the role. Simple example. I think all of you might be aware about this English movies, right? So where adventure kind of movies are there, treasure finding and some gold mines and finding gold mines, finding some treasure, right? I think you identified it. I think one famous movie that series are available, right? Do you aware about it? What it may be, some movies might. Of course, in Telugu also some movies are copied. Yeah, right, sir. Anyway, whatever it may be, see what is the story is going on in that movies there. Uh, Hero might be the person. Okay, hero is a person. He might be innocent, but there is other team, villains team. They are seriously searching for a treasure. They had some groundwork, almost all years and years onward. They are trying for the treasure location, but they did not identify that. Unfortunate thing is what there, the treasure map is there, the route map is available. Half of the map is with the villain side, but the remaining half of the map is with what there, hero side. Sir, am I right or not? Okay, finally, hero secretly is finding this path there, but this villains team, they want to get the remaining of and they want to find the location now. Okay, then that story is going on. At one, just before interval, what will happen? Both the hero and villain both are at a particular point, both are met. Then obviously, what villain is able to do now? Then villain team, they're able to kidnap that hero's family. They're able to say, if we give that map, if we give that map, then we are going to release that hero's family. No. In worst case, what happened there? Okay, hero is decided he want to give that in a might be unfortunate situation. He has given. He didn't have any other option there. He might be given that map to villain team. But then again, villain team, what they are doing there? They're basically villains, no, right? They didn't release it that family of that hero. Again, they're putting one more condition. What is that condition there? Not only this map, no, you have to the person. You should be the person to find the respective location. Maybe so many problems will come there on time, on run time there. So you should find this location for it. Then what hero is able to do now? Now hero will attach both the maps there. Finally, a big map is coming there. Now he started routing that particular treasure, right? In the middle of this process there, you may get might be a number of problems there. What problems you able to get there? All of a sudden might be some arrows are coming, right? All of a sudden might be some, what I'm telling there, some kind of valleys or some kind of things are coming there. All of a sudden some different types of snakes are coming, right? But finally hero has to manage all the things or not. But when he has a doubt, all of a sudden is moving there, might be some kind of forest kind of area is coming there. All of a sudden the forest was stopped there. Immediately he is standing on a particular stone. But in the next minute is what there is a totally some valley, some kind of thing there. Understand my point now? So then seriously, one river is flowing continuously. So problems are coming by that. See, meanwhile, during this journey, when hero has a doubt, what hero is doing there? Whenever he has a doubt, whether you are at the same location or not, what hero is doing there? He will open that map, be able to check that locations or not. But we might be identified some kind of symptoms. Symptoms are maybe some kind of notifications there. Okay, some identifications able to, as per that symbols only, they're able to find the path. Am I right or not? So whenever he is has the doubt now, immediately is open the map, able to check the content or not. Understand my point here now? Your hero is the container, that map is web.xml file. Think of it. See, when we submit a request, what hero is doing there, he wants to find the target element. To find the target element, he don't know the path, but how to take that particular target element, everything is scripted inside the map. Every time he has to check that map or not. Similarly, when request is coming to the container has to find the target element, but to find the target element, where the script is available, where the total directions are available, in web.xml file is available. So hero is in the sense container must go to the web.xml file, where it has to identify the mapping details, where it will identify the target servlet. When it identifies the target servlet, then only it is able to execute the servlet class. Am I right or not? So here that the script is nothing but what there, web.xml file. That map is nothing but what there, web.xml file. In a simplified way, what I am telling now, web.xml file is providing the complete roadmap to the container to find the requested elements and to execute the requested elements. Roadmap. If I use the word, then you may understand it now. The complete roadmap is defined for the container in order to find the server side resources, and in order to execute the server side resources. Right, sir. Now that's it. Now this is what exactly the point here we can understand. Okay, leave it. Total concepts here we understand there. It's okay, fine. Next one, after completion of this approaches, next topic I'm telling there in the same web.xml file, not yet completed, no. Approaches, and before that, if you observe this web.xml file, all of you must remember this. Servlet name tag under servlet tag, servlet name tag under servlet mapping tag must be same. Then only mapping is going on between URL pattern and the login servlet. Sir, am I right or not? How mapping is going on between URL pattern and the servlet class name through what their servlet name tag by providing the same servlet name and its value under servlet as well as under what their servlet mapping. Then only we are able to get mapping. Otherwise, mapping is not going to be provided. That's one point here we have to understand. Okay, fine. All right, sir. Now coming to this point here. Approaches to define URL patterns in web applications or in web.xml file. Approaches to define URL patterns in web.xml file. There are three approaches to define URL patterns in web.xml file. What are the three approaches? One is exact match method. Next one is directory match method. Next one is extension match method. They are the three approaches that we are having. First one is what there exact match method, and second one is like what there directory match method, and next one is like what there extension match method. All right, sir. One by one we are going to understand clearly. First of all, what is the meaning of exact match method? How we are going to define URL patterns in this approach? Observe carefully. In this approach, we will define the URL pattern. In this approach, you will define the URL pattern in web.xml file, comma. It must be prefixed with the slash. It must be prefixed with the what is the slash. It must be prefixed with the slash, and it must be prefixed with the slash. That's it. That URL pattern name must be prefixed with what there slash. Okay. It must be prefixed with slash. That pattern name may be anything here we can write. That URL pattern name may be anything we are able to write. Okay, fine. All of you observe carefully. Example here I'm telling to you web app tag slash web app tag. Under this, so many tags are available. Inside this, here we are going to take like what there servlet mapping tag is available. Under this servlet mapping tag, we are able to write like this. Now inside this servlet mapping, so many tags are available, but now here we have to provide like what then URL pattern tag. Here we have to provide slash. Observe carefully slash. Now some pattern name here we can provide. I want to write like what there ABC slash XYZ slash URL pattern. In this way also we are able to define URL pattern. Okay, URL pattern slash ABC slash XYZ. Okay, fine. Even I have not defined any servlet class here, not required now. Just only URL pattern. Now this is my pattern name. It should start with what there slash. It must be started with what the slash. That pattern name may be anything. Anything here we can provide pattern name now. But here the point is what? Now the exact match method, the name we are providing now. What's the meaning of this exact match method? Observe carefully. If we want to access the server side resource, observe carefully. If we want to access the server side resource, then we must provide an URL pattern, in the URL at client address bar. We have to provide an URL pattern in the URL at client address bar. It must be matched exactly. It must be matched exactly with the URL pattern, which we defined in a web.xml file. All of you observe carefully. This point is important. This point is giving clarity for us what exactly the meaning of exact match method. All of you read this point again. If we want to access the server side resource, then we must provide an URL pattern in the URL at the client address bar. It must be matched. It must be matched exactly with the URL pattern which we define in the web.xml file. Now I'm giving clarity. What is the URL pattern I defined in web.xml file? /abc/xyz. All right. Now I'm giving examples. Now try to understand it clearly. http:// localhost :1010/app app name /abc. Just I provide abc. Leave it. This is one thing here I provided. No. Next one is /abc/xyz /xyz/abc. Okay, /abc/abc. Like this we can provide anything, any number of things here we can provide. Now we can observe this. This is like what there invalid. First one is what invalid. Why sir? Why it is invalid? No, URL pattern name is what there only ABC. But what is that pattern name here? No, ABC XYZ. Now the second one is what there? Now tell me. Second one is what there is a valid. Second one is valid. Okay. ABC/XYZ. Exactly ABC/XYZ. Both are matched or not? Then only respective servlet is going to be executed. Okay. Next one is for example. If we provide this one, here what we are able to get there. Right, sir. Now here. Now this is like what there XYZ. My intention. XYZ/ABC. Now again this is what there invalid. Next one is what there apart from this no. Yes, again it is invalid. See, only second one is valid. Apart from the second one, even though if you provide 100 types, all are invalid only. Why? Because the point is what there, whatever the URL pattern we are providing at client address bar, that URL pattern must be matched with the URL pattern which we define in the web.xml file. Then only respective servlet is going to be executed. Yes, sir. All of you are getting it or not? Right, so now this is the point here we can understand clearly now. Leave this point here. After this, after completion of this particular one. All right, sir. Now, one point I'm telling there, listen carefully. Here in place of this, just simply we can provide even this one also. Slash also we can provide. What's the meaning of slash? No, we can pass any request with any name. Any request we can pass there. Automatically, the respective resource is going to be executed. Yes, sir. Are you getting it or not? So that we are going to use in MVC based applications. This we are going to use in what there MVC based applications. Understand my point here? What I'm telling there. If you want to send any type of request to a single component for only one servlet, all requests I want to catch. Any type of request we can send, but I want to get them into a single servlet. There we can use this logic. In general, we may call it as what the default URL pattern, default request type, default URL pattern. In general, people are saying that, but not like this. It's a part of the exact match method only. If we provide only slash without providing any name, request may be anything, but every request will be trapped or will come to what there this particular servlet only. But this will be used in what there MVC based applications. We are going to see that in the future also. We are going to prepare so many MVC based applications in our content. If I go for Spring framework, in Spring Web MVC, there is a module. There we are going to use like what there slash. We are going to use what there slash. Slash is a content here. We are able to understand. Okay, fine, sir. This is one point. Now observe carefully. Other thing is like what there. Now the second approach is like what there. Directory match method. The second approach is like what there. Directory match method. Exact match method. Now this is what there. Directory match method. In a directory match method, what we are able to provide the URL pattern. Now we are going to provide the URL pattern. Observe carefully. In this approach, we will define an URL pattern in web.xml file. It must be prefixed with a slash, and it must be suffixed with a star. It must be prefixed with a slash, and it must be suffixed with what there star. Understand my point clearly now? Right, sir. Okay, example here I'm telling you, try to understand it clearly. For example, now web app slash web app, some other tags also here we are able to use. Now next one is like what there, servlet mapping slash servlet mapping. Inside this servlet mapping, servlet name, it's okay. Some other tags are available here. Directly I'm going to write URL pattern. URL pattern. Now observe carefully. I'm going to provide that URL pattern slash login slash star. Okay, slash. We are able to use like what there URL pattern. Understand my point clearly? Like this here we provided. For example, I'm telling that this is like what their pattern name. Here I provided. If you want to specify, instead of saying that login there, just we can specify something else like what their ABC slash ABC slash what their star. Okay, fine. Now the point is what? Pattern, I'll give the situation where we are going to use this mechanism. I'll give the situation. Now here, in this approach, how we are going to access the respective server side resource now? In this approach, we will define. That means in this approach, we are able to access the respective server side resource. In this approach, we will access the respective server side resource. We are able to access the respective server side resource by providing an URL pattern at in a URL at a client address bar. It's a prefix value. That means what's the point I'm telling there? It's a prefix value must be matched with the prefix value of the URL pattern which you define in the web.xml file. Anyway, theory is okay, fine, but I'm going to use some URLs there, through that we are able to understand it clearly. Now tell me, what is the URL pattern we define here? Slash ABC slash star. Okay, now what URL patterns are valid here? We can understand it clearly. HTTP colon slash is localhost colon 1010 slash ABB slash ABC. HTTP colon slash is localhost colon 1010 slash ABB slash ABC slash XYZ. Observe carefully. HTTP colon slash is localhost colon 1010 slash ABB slash. Now this time here I want to provide like what there, ABC slash ABC. Next one, HTTP colon slash s localhost colon 1010 slash ABB slash XYZ slash ABC. Like this. If we provide this, now observe carefully, our URL pattern is what there, ABC slash star. Now here we are getting only what there, ABC. Okay, now it is valid, no problem. Star is nothing but anything. Star in the sense what there, anything here we can provide. Okay, fine. Next one is like what there. All right, sir. ABC slash XYZ. Now it is valid. Now it is valid. Next one is what there. After this, ABC slash ABC. ABC slash first prefix value match is sufficient. Okay, here prefix of the URL pattern is what, ABC. Here the prefix is what there, ABC. If the ABC started with ABC, ended with anything, that doesn't matter here. No. Why? Because star is available. So this also be valid. Now this also be like what there, valid. Now tell me, what is the next one here? No, prefix value is what there, here we provided XYZ. But here what we provided here, ABC. Both are mismatched here. No. So now it is invalid. Now this is not the valid URL pattern. This is not like for their valid URL pattern for this. Okay, we are unable to access the respective server side. Okay, fine. Now this is a case here. In MVC based applications, if you want to, in MVC based application, controller must allow all the request types, all the requests. Controller must take the request, no, front controller. So in that case, if you are using URL pattern, if you want to use this mechanism for URL pattern for the front controller servlet, there we are going to use slash star. What we are able to use there, slash star. Simple point here I'm telling to you. Now try to understand here what I'm telling to you. In this scenario, we are able to understand like what there. In this mechanism, all of you observe carefully. In this mechanism, all right, sorry. If you want to use, if you want to use this mechanism, if you want to use this mechanism, if you want to use this mechanism in MVC based web applications, if we want to use this mechanism in MVC based web applications, we have to use slash star as an URL pattern. We have to use slash star as an URL pattern. As an URL pattern, we have to use slash star as an URL pattern to the controller servlet. And in the introduction classes, I have given some points. In MVC based web applications, as a controller, we have to take servlet only. As a viewport, we are going to take what there, HTML and JSP pages now. But as a controller, we have to use what there, servlets only. Observe carefully. So if we want to use this mechanism in MVC based web applications, we have to use slash star as an URL pattern to the controller servlet. Is it all of you getting it or not? Fine, sir. This we have to use anyway. So that web application that means like what I'm telling there, MVC based applications, controller servlet, further controller servlet, this URL patterns I will discuss with you. No need to worry for it. Later I'm able to discuss with you. Know. Now meanwhile, now I want to take one use case for this, where we are going to use this directory match method. I want to take one small use case. Now try to understand it clearly. Right, sir. Your concentration is very, very important. Then only we are able to understand the point now. Observe carefully. For example, now I want to take some servlets. Listen carefully. I want to take some servlets. Nearly, I'm going to take 4 servlets. Four servlets. Okay. Now I'm giving servlet 1. This is servlet 2. This is servlet 3, servlet 4. Okay, listen, all of you listen carefully. First of all, understand my requirement. I'm able to send any number of requests to all 4 servlets. As of now, I'm able to send any number of requests to the 4 servlets. Clear? For example, if I send a request to servlet 1 and servlet 2, first data validations has to be completed. After that only that request must come to the servlet 1 and servlet 2. So before executing servlet 1 and servlet 2, I need to perform some activity. What is that activity? Data validations. If the data validations are cleared, if the data validations are passed, then only the request must come to what there? Servlet 1 and servlet 2. Recognize it, what I'm telling you. Fine. So for servlet 1, servlet 2, I need a pre-processing task. Listen carefully. For servlet 3 and servlet 4, if you want to send, if you submit any request to servlet 3 and servlet 4, there we need some pre-processing task. Before executing servlet 3 and servlet 4, first of all, we have to check whether that user is valid user or not to access these 2 resources. So authentication I want to perform for the request. If I get any request for servlet 3 and servlet 4, first I have to check, authenticate that user. After that only, if that user is authenticated, then only I'm able to allow that request to the servlet 3 and servlet 4. So before executing servlet 3 and servlet 4, authentication, I have to perform a task or not? Understand what I'm telling them? In web applications, before executing servlets, if you want to perform some activities, if you are performing some activities, that activities are called as pre-processing activities. To perform these pre-processing activities, we are going to use a separate component in web applications. That separate component is filter. The separate component is what there? Filter. Filters are mainly for pre-processing activities. Of course, for post-processing activities also, but in this context, I required only pre-processing activities. Filter is a component in web application. It will be executed before executing the servlets in order to perform some pre-processing activities. All of you are getting clarity up to now. This I am giving the information about filter. Filter is not servlet. Filter is a component at server side. It will be executed to provide some pre-processing activity for the web resources. Fine. I want to use 2 filters as per the requirement. What are the 2 filters here I want to provide there? Observe carefully. This is validation filter and this is authentication filter. 2 filters here we want to use, validation filter and authentication filter. Validation filter, authentication filter. Validation filter, and next one is what there? Authentication filter. Now understand my requirement. My requirement is what? Validation filter I want to apply for servlet 1 and servlet 2. Authentication filter I want to apply for what there? Servlet 3 and servlet 4. Okay. All right. Here we are having some clients now. All right, sir. Now these are like what their clients here we are having. All right, sir. Now my requirement is what? This is client 1. Client 2 and client 3. Now this is like what there? Client 4. Listen carefully. Client 1 wants to send request to servlet 1. Yes, sir. All of you are getting it or not? Client 1 wants to send request to what there? Servlet 1. Client 2 wants to execute servlet 2. Client 3 wants to access servlet 3. Client 4 wants to access servlet 4. But to manage all these concepts, to manage all the things, here we require server, that means we require server software or not? Definitely here we require what there? Server software. Now this is server. Right. Sir. Now this is what there? Server. Okay. Server or container, whatever it may be. Both are same now. In this context, our concentration is on not on the server or not on the container. Our concentration is on what there? This mapping. Totally we are putting concentration on mapping. How we are going to map the things. That's the point here. Up to now, we are aware about it. Directory match method, exact match method, both the URL pattern mechanisms we are aware. By using that URL pattern mapping, URL pattern definition mechanisms, by using these URL pattern approaches, by using these two, we have to achieve a requirement. What requirement here we are going to achieve there? A point is, if we submit request to the servlet one, automatically that request must come to the validation filter. After that only that request must come to the servlet one. If I send request to the servlet 4, automatically my request must be submitted to authentication filter. After that only my request must be diverted to servlet 4. If I send a request to servlet 2, the request must come through validation filter. If I submit request to servlet 3, that request must come through authentication filter. This is my requirement. Yes, sir. All of you are getting it or not? Okay. I want to provide some URL pattern definitions. I want to go for some manipulations. Now try to understand it clearly. Okay. Now observe the situation for validation filter. Validation filter should require an URL pattern. Listen, all of you listen carefully. This is a key point. Validation filter should require an URL pattern. It must allow all the requests which are incoming to the servlet 1, servlet 2. In that way, I have to define an URL pattern for what their validation filter. For authentication filter, I'm going to define an URL pattern. It must trap all the requests which are coming to the servlet 3 and servlet 4. This is the requirement. So for that requirement, what I'm going to do now, first I'm going to define URL pattern for the validation filter. That is like what there, slash val slash star. If any request whose URL pattern prefix val is matched with a slash val, it must come to what their validation filter. The next suffix value may be anything. Observe carefully. Now, if I want to trap all the requests to the authentication filter, slash auth auth slash star authentication, right? Authentication slash star. Now tell me, this style of defining URL patterns is in which mechanism? Exact match mechanism or directory match mechanism? Directory match mechanism. So directory match mechanism is suitable for what their filters. Directory match mechanism is required for what their filters. If I want to apply these components like this. Okay, now I want to define an URL pattern for servlet. My URL pattern for the servlet is what there, slash val slash s1. Now slash val slash s2 slash auth slash s3. Next one, slash auth slash s4. Like this here, I define URL pattern for this. Now we can understand it clearly. First, I'm sending first request, very first request I'm sending there. I'm submitting this request to the server with an URL pattern. What is that URL here? We can understand it clearly. HTTP colon slashes localhost colon 1010 slash app slash. I need to provide val slash s1. All of you observe carefully. When request is coming to the server or container, first server or container will take that URL pattern name. Okay. It will identify the respective servlet, which servlet is having that URL pattern slash val slash s1. But before that, if any filter is configured with respect to this URL pattern or not, it will check it. Before executing servlet, first of all, it will identify servlet. Before executing servlet, it will check whether any filter is available or not with this URL pattern. Yes, two filters are available. First filters have to be executed. Out of these two filters, which filter has to be executed? Which filter has to be executed here? No, observe carefully. Prefix of this URL pattern is what there? Val. Here the prefix of the validation filter is what there? Val. Both are matched or not? Then immediately that very first request will come to like what there? Validation filter. Okay, when validations are completed, when it's completed, then as per this total val slash s1, then that request will be reached to servlet 1. Now servlet 1 will be executed. By the execution of the servlet 1, some response will be generated. Understand? Okay. Next one. For example, now client 2 wants to send some request. Client 2 is sending some request to server or container. What exactly that request that client to do is submitting now? HTTP colon slash is localhost colon 1010 slash app slash val slash s2. This is the request was submitted by client 2. Again, server or container, what it has to do now? First, it has to take that URL pattern what user has specified in the URL. It will search for a servlet class with the same URL pattern, exact match method. Now it is available slash val slash s2 matched here. But before executing this servlet in web.xml file, container has to check any filter is mapped with this particular servlet or not. Here two filters are available. Out of these two filters, now which filter have to be executed? Now it is trying to compare slash val prefix value with the prefix value of the validation filter. Both are matched here. Slash star slash s2 matched here. Okay, first validation filter will be executed. After executing this validation filter, request will come to servlet 2. Clear? Now it is completed. Next one is observe carefully, all of you know. Now here I want to submit another request from client 3 to servlet 3. I want to submit another request. How we are able to provide this request? What exactly the request here? No, we can understand clearly. HTTP colon slash is localhost colon 1010 slash app slash. Now this time I'm going to provide the request is what there authentication slash s3 like this here we provide it. Now what the server or container will do now? Server or container will take that URL pattern from the URL. It will search for a particular servlet with the same URL pattern as it is available. For the servlet, if any filter is configured, first container must execute that filter. After that only servlet. Now here, how many filters are available? Two filters are available. Just give a minute of time. Okay. Now come for this. All right, so two filters are available. Now, which filter is suitable for executing this servlet 3? That is depending on what their prefix value of the filter. First of all, it will compare with, it will check with the validation filter. Now in the URL pattern, what is available prefix? No, auth. But in the validation filter, what is the prefix? No, val. Both are not matched. This is not the right filter. Container will come to the another filter. In another filter, what is the URL pattern? /auth. In the user provided URL pattern, what is the prefix value? /auth. Both are matched. Then immediately container will submit that request to the authentication filter. Authentication filter will submit again login form to the user, username, password. User may enter username and password. Click on login button. Again, request will come to the authentication filter. Now it will check username and password is valid or invalid. If it is valid, then only that request will be forwarded to servlet 3. Then only that request will be forwarded to what there? Servlet 3. Sir, all of you are getting my point or not? Okay, fine. This is one point. All right, sir. Now here, prefix value of this authentication filter, user provided URL pattern, prefix value, both are matched. Then only authentication filter is executed. All right, sir. Next one. After completion of this particular content here. Now the another point here, what I'm telling to you. Now, I want to submit another request from what there from client 4 to the server. What exactly this request get? Now observe carefully the request. No, a request will be HTTP :/s localhost 1010/ now app/ now here after this application name here we have to provide URL pattern name auth/s4. That's an URL pattern here we provide it. Now what this container is able to do? No, container is able to take the respective URL pattern what we provided. Now it able to check which servlet is having the same URL pattern as servlet is identified. For this servlet, if any filter is available or not, as available, first container is trying to match that user provided URL pattern with the validation filter URL pattern. Is it matched or not matched? Not matched. Why? Because user provided URL pattern prefix is /auth. Now validation filter the prefix value is what there? /val, not matched. Then container will come to the authentication filter. There what is that URL pattern? /auth/star. So both are matched here in this case. When both are matched, immediately container will forward that request to what here? Authentication filter. So first authentication filter will be executed totally. When authentication filter is executed completely, after that now authentication filter will forward that request to what there? Servlet 4 on the basis of the particular URL pattern. Now finally here we are able to execute our requirement clearly. Now tell me, all of you now tell me, how URL pattern is defined for the filters? What is the need of the filter and how we are defining URL pattern for the filter? To define an URL pattern for the filter, just we have used a directory match method or not? We have used what there? Directory match method or not? So this is what exactly the requirement why we are going to use directory match method. This is a situation where we are going to use what there? Directory match method. Now try to recognize this point clearly. All right, sir. Now I'm going to give that one point here, one small note here I'm telling there. In general, in web applications, we will use filters to provide pre-processing services and post-processing services for any web resource. Here for any web resource. Okay. All right. In web applications to provide URL pattern for the filters, we will use directory match method. We will use what mechanism there? No, directory match method. All right. This is the total story about like what there? Directory match method. Is that clear? All of you are getting clarity on this, no? All right, so this is completed that we can understand clearly now. For example, If we want to use filter as a controller in MVC based application, of course we can use it. In MVC based web applications, not only servlet, we can use a filter as a controller. Already in Struts framework 2, Struts framework 2, one controller class is available. That controller class is a filter only. Filter dispatcher. The name is what there? Filter dispatcher. In a Struts 2, in a Struts 1, action servlet is acting as the controller. In a Struts 2, filter dispatcher is acting as the controller. There, in MVC based applications, in MVC based frameworks, a filter is utilized as what there? A controller. So not only servlets, the equivalent component, anything we can use as what there? Controller. Almost all. Here also be controller responsibilities are performed by filter here. Almost all this filter is performing what responsibilities there? No, controller responsibilities. Indirectly it is showing that controller responsibilities only. But mainly it is for what there? Pre-processing and post-processing kind of services clearly. That's it. Now that's fine. Next one is what there? After this, after completion of this next one here, another content is like what there? Extension match method. Extension match method. Okay. So this topic I'll discuss with you tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll see the total content. Tomorrow regular classes only. And day of tomorrow, Sunday I will not go for this servlet class there, but I'm going to take core Java classes. No. Then again Monday onwards we are going to see the remaining content. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thanks a lot. Till meet you tomorrow. Right.